Hello, and welcome to the Sleep Library. Wherever you are in the world, and whatever time it is as you press play, we're honored to keep you company as you drift into rest. Before we begin tonight's story, take a moment to settle in. Feel the warmth of your blanket, the stillness around you, and the space you've made to simply let go. If you enjoy this experience, we invite you to subscribe to the Sleep Library. We create gentle, slow, and calming stories to help you sleep. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. And in the comments below, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? Your words help us build a global, restful little community. One quiet listener at a time. Now, if you're ready, let's travel back to a time not often remembered.
When we think of warriors, what comes to mind? Large men clad in shining armor, swords raised, leading charges into battle. Perhaps the heroic figures of history: Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, or even the iconic knights of medieval Europe pop into your head. But hold on, what if I told you that women, often overlooked in the chronicles of war, have had an undeniable influence in shaping the ancient battlefields? We're talking about warrior queens, deadly archers, and cunning strategist figures whose stories have been buried beneath the towering tales of their male counterparts. Women who fought not only for their lives, but also for their kingdoms, their people, and their legacies. And today, we're going to dive into the lost history of these fierce women and their role in ancient warfare. One of the earliest images of women in battle comes from the ancient Greek myths, the Amazons. These legendary women warriors were depicted as fierce, independent, and skilled fighters, often fighting alongside men in battles. The most famous Amazonian queen, Hippolyta, wielded a magical girdle that granted her immense power and was said to lead armies that struck fear into the hearts of even the greatest warriors of Greece. But were the Amazons purely mythical, or was there truth to the stories? Archaeological discoveries suggest that the Amazons were not just the stuff of legend, but real historical figures. For instance, the Scythians, a nomadic people from the Eurasian steppes, had warrior women who fought alongside men. These women rode horses, used bows and arrows, and engaged in brutal combat, much like their male counterparts. In fact, the tombs of these Scythian women have been discovered, and evidence shows that they were buried with weapons such as swords and shields, indicating that they may have been warriors themselves. Some scholars even believe that the Amazonian myth was based on these real women, their fierce prowess in battle, and their societal roles in their respective tribes. But let's not get carried away with romanticized visions of women on horseback slaying enemies. This isn't a fairy tale, though it would have made one heck of a movie. The reality was probably much more practical. These women fought not because they were looking for glory, but because their survival depended on it. The Scythians lived in a harsh environment where survival was not guaranteed, and everyone, regardless of gender, had to contribute to the fight for survival. This wasn't a matter of personal choice, it was a necessity. So, while the idea of Amazons may have been romanticized by Greek storytellers, the basis of the legend might not be so far-fetched after all. Let's fast forward from the Scythian plains to the cold, dark shores of Scandinavia, where the Valkyries, the warrior maidens of Norse mythology, dominated the imagination of Viking society. In Viking sagas, these powerful women were not just figments of imagination, they were real figures in the world of the Norsemen. The Valkyries were said to choose the bravest warriors who would die in battle and escort them to Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain, where Odin, the All-Father, welcomed them into his eternal feasting hall. But what did these Valkyries represent? Were they merely mythological beings created to explain death in battle, or were they reflective of the real roles that women played in Viking warfare? Recent archaeological evidence suggests that Viking women had more agency in battle than previously thought. While we're not talking about women riding into battle with swords raised high, though we can dream, some Viking graves have been discovered that contain not only the remains of women, but also weapons like swords and shields. This suggests that these women could have been warriors or at least had close ties to warfare. One of the most significant discoveries was made in 2017 when researchers found the grave of a Viking woman in Boudica, Sweden, that contained military equipment, including a sword, arrows, and a battle axe. Initially, historians had assumed this was the grave of a man, but further DNA testing confirmed that it was, in fact, the grave of a woman. This woman, buried as a warrior, challenges our traditional understanding of Viking society and their battle culture. Could she have been a Valkyrie? Or was she simply a woman who took up arms to defend her family or tribe? While the exact role of women like the Valkyries remains unclear, these discoveries suggest that Norse women could have been more directly involved in warfare than we've been led to believe. And who knows, maybe the Valkyries weren't just mythological figures, but representations of real warrior women who fought valiantly in battle, choosing who would survive and who would die. If there's one woman from ancient history who embodies the image of a fierce, determined warrior, it's Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe in ancient Britain. In 60 AD, after suffering years of Roman oppression, Boudica rose up against the mighty Roman Empire in a rebellion that would become one of the most legendary uprisings in British history. Boudica was not your average queen. Standing tall with fiery red hair, she became a symbol of defiance and strength. After the Romans took her land and abused her family, Boudica decided that she had enough. With a large army of warriors, she marched to the Roman settlement of Colchester and burned it to the ground. From there, she went on to sack Londinium, modern-day London, driving the Romans out and causing panic throughout the empire. Her rebellion became a symbol of resistance, not just against the Romans, but against the idea that women could be subjugated and oppressed. Boudica fought as a leader, a strategist, and a symbol of power, proving that the image of a woman in history doesn't have to be passive or confined to the domestic sphere. Sadly, Boudica's rebellion ended in defeat, but her story has lived on, inspiring countless generations. The Romans may have won the battle, but Boudica won a place in history as one of the most powerful female warriors to ever challenge the status quo. As we continue to explore the untold stories of women who shaped history, let's leave behind the warriors of mythology and move to more concrete examples from ancient history. Not all warrior women were queens or legendary figures. Some were ordinary women thrust into the chaos of war, yet they proved that courage and leadership aren't confined to any one gender. Let's start with a surprising case from the ancient world, the role of women in the Egyptian military. We often think of the pharaohs and their mighty armies, led by men. But women, too, played significant roles in the Egyptian military, both as rulers and as fighters. One of the most fascinating examples comes from Queen Hatshepsut, a ruler of ancient Egypt who ascended to the throne around 1479 BC. While Hatshepsut's reign is often associated with her diplomatic achievements and monumental building projects, she also took on the role of military commander. In some of her temple reliefs, Hatshepsut is depicted as a warrior, holding a mace and wearing the traditional attire of a male king, including a false beard. This imagery was a deliberate choice, as she sought to present herself as a powerful and masculine ruler, capable of leading her armies into battle. However, it wasn't just her public persona that made Hatshepsut's reign extraordinary. The queen's military exploits are also recorded in the annals of Egyptian history. During her reign, she organized several military campaigns, including one into the land of Punt, modern-day Somalia or Ethiopia, which was rich in resources. These expeditions were not only significant for trade, but also for their military implications. Hatshepsut's reign was a time of peace and prosperity, but her involvement in military activities shows that, in ancient Egypt, women could hold positions of power and influence over matters of war. Hatshepsut's story challenges the traditional notion that female rulers of ancient Egypt were purely symbolic or relegated to domestic roles. She was a true leader in every sense of the word, taking on the same roles and responsibilities as her male counterparts, moving from the Nile to the Mediterranean. Let's turn our attention to the legendary Cleopatra VII, another powerful woman who found herself at the intersection of politics and warfare. Cleopatra is often remembered for her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, but her true legacy lies in her ability to navigate the complex world of politics and military strategy. Born in 69 BC, Cleopatra became the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, a dynasty that had been established by one of Alexander the Great's generals. In an era dominated by men, Cleopatra used her intellect, charisma, and military alliances to maintain Egypt's independence in the face of growing Roman power. Cleopatra's involvement in military affairs wasn't just a byproduct of her alliances. She was a shrewd strategist in her own right. During the Roman civil wars, she aligned herself with Julius Caesar, providing him with military support during his campaigns in the East. After Caesar's assassination, she shifted her allegiance to Mark Antony, another Roman leader who sought to maintain his power against the forces of Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. Cleopatra and Antony fought several battles together, most notably the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. Although they were ultimately defeated by Octavian's forces, Cleopatra's ability to command armies, forge military alliances, and remain a key political player in a male-dominated world is a testament to her skill and resilience. But Cleopatra's legacy goes beyond her romantic relationships or political maneuvering. She was, without question, a warrior in her own right, fighting not just for power, but for the survival of her kingdom. The famous image of her being carried in a gilded barge on the Nile is often romanticized, but beneath that image lies the story of a woman who fought tirelessly to secure her throne and protect her people from the ever-encroaching Roman Empire. But not all women who fought in ancient wars were rulers or rurals. Some were ordinary women who found themselves caught in the brutal realities of conflict. One of the most striking examples comes from the Siege of Masada, a famous event in Jewish history. In 73 AD, the Roman Empire laid siege to the Jewish stronghold of Masada, located in modern-day Israel. The siege ended in a dramatic and tragic standoff as the Jewish defenders, led by Eleazar ben Yair, chose to commit mass suicide rather than face Roman capture. Among those defenders were women and children, who, according to some accounts, fought alongside the men in the final battle. While the men held the fort and fought off Roman advances, the women and children were tasked with various vital roles, including providing food, ammunition, and medical aid. Some accounts suggest that the women may have even fought in the final moments of the siege, wielding weapons to defend the stronghold. Though the historical record is unclear about the exact role these women played in the battle, their involvement in the defense of Masada speaks volumes about their strength and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. They were not passive bystanders, they were active participants in a struggle for survival. This example highlights an often overlooked aspect of warfare, the critical role that women played in supporting and sometimes directly participating in military campaigns. Whether they were providing logistical support, offering medical care, or even taking up arms, these women demonstrated incredible bravery and resilience. Their stories are often lost in the annals of history, overshadowed by the tales of the great men who led the armies. But these women were warriors in their own right, contributing to the military efforts in ways that are still often ignored. Across the ancient world, women were involved in war in various capacities, whether as rulers, strategists, or fighters. The stories of these women are often hidden in the margins of history, overshadowed by the deeds of their male counterparts. But by revisiting these accounts and shedding light on their contributions, we begin to see a more complete picture of the ancient world, one where women were not mere bystanders, but active participants in shaping the course of history. As we continue exploring the remarkable women who have left their mark on history's battlefields, we now turn to the ancient Asian world, where women not only held their ground, but also ruled empires and commanded armies. These women, often overshadowed by their male counterparts, were key figures in shaping the destinies of their civilizations. Let's begin with the legendary figure of Fu Hao, a queen consort and military general of the Shang dynasty in ancient China. Fu Hao's name has often been buried under the weight of male-dominated historical records, but she was one of the most powerful women in Chinese history. She was the wife of King Wuding, and while her role as consort could have confined her to the royal harem, Fu Hao proved to be far more than just a queen. Fu Hao's greatest achievement came in the field of warfare. She was not just a passive figure in her husband's court. She actively commanded troops in battle. Historical records and archaeological evidence suggest that she led military campaigns to defend the Shang dynasty from invading forces. In fact, Fu Hao's military exploits are well documented on oracle bones, an ancient form of divination used during the Shang dynasty. These records reveal that she was a general who led successful military campaigns against various tribes, including the Kong and the Di. She was highly regarded for her strategic brilliance and military acumen, earning the respect of her peers and soldiers alike. The most significant proof of Fu Hao's military prowess comes from the discovery of her tomb in 1976, which contained an array of weapons, including bronze and jade items, as well as inscriptions detailing her military achievements. Her tomb was also filled with evidence of her wealth and influence, showing that she wasn't merely a symbolic figurehead, but a woman who wielded true power both on and off the battlefield. Fu Hao's legacy challenges the stereotype that women in ancient China were confined to the domestic sphere. She was a ruler in her own right, commanding armies and leading campaigns, and her story serves as a reminder that women were far more influential in the ancient world than history often lets on. Moving from China to the Mongol steppes, we find another fierce and formidable woman who played a crucial role in one of history's most expansive empires, Khutulun, the niece of the infamous Genghis Khan. Khutulun was a warrior princess who defied the norms of her time and became one of the most feared and respected leaders of the Mongol Empire. Her story is one of bravery, strength, and the breaking of gender barriers. Khutulun was a skilled horse rider and a master of wrestling, two of the most important skills in Mongol society. Her prowess in battle was legendary, and she accompanied her uncle, Genghis Khan, on several military campaigns. Khutulun's reputation as a fierce warrior grew to such an extent that her enemies feared her name. She was known to have led her troops into battle and to have defeated many of her male counterparts in hand-to-hand combat. It's said that she was so skilled at wrestling that no man in her army could defeat her. In fact, Khutulun's strength was so impressive that she reportedly had a custom-made wrestling belt, which became a symbol of her dominance in the sport. What sets Khutulun apart from many other women in history is her ability to break free from the traditional roles expected of women in her society. In a culture where women were often relegated to household duties, Khutulun proved that a woman could be just as fierce and capable as any man on the battlefield. Her story is one of defying the odds and proving that women were not bound by societal expectations. Her influence and her courage on the battlefield made her a key figure in the Mongol Empire, and her legacy lives on as a symbol of strength and determination. Now, let's turn to a different corner of the world, where women took up arms to defend their homes from foreign invaders. In the 16th century, the Philippines was invaded by the Spanish, who sought to expand their empire and spread Catholicism throughout the archipelago. During this turbulent time, one woman rose up to defend her people. Raja Suleiman's wife, the warrior queen and leader of the resistance, La Condula of Tondo. La Condula led her people against the Spanish forces in a series of battles known as the Tondo Rebellion. Though much of her story shrouded in mystery, historical records suggest that she was a highly skilled military leader who led a united front of various indigenous groups in the region. Khutulun's resistance was part of a broader effort by the people of the Philippines to protect their land from foreign invaders, and she played a crucial role in organizing and leading the forces that fought back against the Spanish. Her courage and leadership on the battlefield made her a symbol of resistance against colonial oppression. Khutulun's efforts to protect her people and her land are a testament to the strength and resilience of women in the face of adversity. She may not have been the first name that came to mind when thinking of resistance leaders, but her legacy is one of valor and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Moving to the Americas, we find the story of the Nahua women, who were part of the powerful Aztec Empire in pre-Columbian Mexico. While we often think of the Aztecs in terms of their grand temples, advanced society, and powerful male rulers, it is easy to overlook the important role that women played in their military and social structures. Nahua women were not only responsible for the care of their families, but also participated in the military campaigns that were essential to the expansion of the Aztec Empire. The most well-known example of a Nahua woman in battle is the warrior woman known as Malinche, or La Malinche. Though her story has been clouded by controversy and misconceptions, Malinche was a woman of extraordinary intelligence and bravery who played a key role in the conquest of Mexico. She was a translator, advisor, and lover to the Spanish conquistador, Hernan Cortes, and while her role in the conquest has been viewed as a betrayal by some, her actions were far more complex than they might first appear. Malinche was deeply involved in the military strategies and negotiations between the Aztecs and the Spanish, and her knowledge of indigenous cultures was instrumental in the survival of the conquistadors. Though Malinche's story is one of tragedy, it also highlights the role of women in warfare, not only as warriors, but also as strategists and diplomats. Her intelligence, courage, and understanding of both sides of the conflict make her one of the most fascinating and misunderstood women in history. Continuing our exploration of ancient warrior women, we now venture into the world of ancient Greece and Rome, to civilizations often remembered for their male-dominated leadership and legendary battles. However, even in these societies, women managed to carve out their own spaces in the annals of military history, whether as leaders, strategists, or warriors. Though their roles were often hidden behind layers of societal expectations, their actions, courage, and influence cannot be denied. Let's begin with the story of Artemisia of Caria, a figure who defied the typical roles of women in ancient Greece and became one of the most formidable naval commanders in history. Artemisia's story is a fascinating one, as she not only led her own fleet into battle, but also played a critical role in one of the most important naval battles of the ancient world, the Battle of Salamis in 480 BCE. During this pivotal conflict, the Greek city-states, led by Themistocles, fought against the Persian Empire under King Xerxes. Artemisia, as the queen of Halicarnassus, was an ally of Xerxes and commanded a fleet of ships that fought valiantly against the Greeks. But Artemisia was no mere figurehead. She was a brilliant strategist, known for her keen mind and tactical acumen. In the Battle of Salamis, her fleet played a crucial role, and she distinguished herself with daring maneuvers that left the Greeks stunned. Her leadership and expertise in naval warfare earned her the respect of both the Greeks and the Persians. In fact, the historian Herodotus famously recorded an event during the battle in which Artemisia's fleet was surrounded by Greek ships. Rather than panicking, she employed a clever ruse pretending to retreat, only to circle back and attack her pursuers with devastating force. This bold tactic allowed her fleet to escape destruction, and it demonstrated her military genius. Her actions during the Battle of Salamis were critical to the Persians' overall strategy, but her contribution to the battle is often overshadowed by the tales of the Greek victors. Artemisia's story serves as a powerful reminder that women, even in ancient times, could rise to positions of leadership and make a significant impact on the course of history, challenging the conventional roles that were expected of them. Let's now move from the Greek world to the Roman Empire, where women played a different, yet equally influential, role in warfare and leadership. One such woman was Julia Domna, the wife of the Roman Emperor Septimius Severus. Born in 170 CE in Syria, Julia Domna was a woman of great intellect, political savvy, and ambition. She came from a wealthy family of priests and was highly educated, fluent in Greek and Latin, and knowledgeable about philosophy and literature. When her husband became emperor, Julia Domna rose to a position of great power, not only as his consort, but also as a trusted advisor and key player in Roman politics. Julia Domna was not just a passive participant in the Roman Empire's military campaigns, she was actively involved in the political and military decisions that shaped the empire during her husband's reign. After Severus' death in 11 CE, Julia Domna became an influential figure in her own right. She played a significant role in supporting her sons, Cos and Geta, as they sought to maintain their control over the empire after their father's passing. Though she didn't command armies directly, her influence over the military was undeniable. She was instrumental in securing the loyalty of key generals and was an essential figure in the political machinations of the empire during a time of instability. Julia Domna's legacy, the testament to the power and influence that women could wield behind the scenes in the Roman world. She wasn't fighting on the front lines of battle, but her intelligence and strategic thinking were just as important in securing her family's position in the empire. Her story challenges the notion that Roman women were merely pawns in the political games of their male counterparts. Julia Domna proves that women could be power brokers in their own right, shaping the destiny of an empire from behind the curtains of politics. Moving from Rome to the heart of Africa, we find the story of the Dahomey Amazons, a group of women, warriors who were a key force in the kingdom of Dahomey, modern-day Benin. The Dahomey Amazons were an elite group of female soldiers who served as the personal guard to the king and played a crucial role in the kingdom's military campaigns. Their history dates back to the 17th century, and they were one of the most feared and respected fighting forces in West Africa. The Dahomey Amazons were not just ceremonial warriors, they were battle-hardened fighters who trained rigorously and fought in numerous wars. They were skilled in various forms of combat, including hand-to-hand fighting, swordsmanship, and archery. The kingdom of Dahomey's military strength was built on the backs of these women, who were often sent to the front lines to lead attacks and defend their homeland. Their courage and fighting prowess were legendary, and they became known throughout Africa and beyond as an indomitable force. The Dahomey Amazons were so formidable that European slave traders feared them, and they even played a pivotal role in defending Dahomey against French colonial forces in the 19th century. While the Dahomey Amazons were often portrayed as mythological figures, their real-life contributions to their kingdom's military efforts were substantial. They were not simply warriors, they were protectors, leaders, and symbols of strength for their people. Their bravery and skill in battle challenged the prevailing gender norms of their time, proving that women could serve as the backbone of a powerful military force. The legacy of the Dahomey Amazons serves as a powerful reminder that women have been active participants in the defense of their societies for centuries, fighting with honor and determination. Lastly, let's turn to the history of women in the military of ancient India, particularly the story of the Rajput women. The Rajputs were a group of warrior clans in northern India who played a crucial role in defending their kingdoms from invading forces. During times of war, Rajput women were not only expected to maintain their homes, but also to contribute to the defense of their lands. These women often fought alongside their male relatives, taking up arms to defend their homes and honor. One of the most famous stories of Rajput women in battle is the tale of Rani Durgavati, the warrior queen of Gondwana, a kingdom in central India. In the 16th century, Rani Durgavati fought valiantly against the Mughal invaders led by Emperor Akbar's general, Asaf Khan. When her kingdom was under siege, Rani Durgavati refused to surrender and led her army into battle, fighting alongside her soldiers. Though her forces were eventually overwhelmed, her courage and leadership have been remembered as one of the most inspiring examples of a woman warrior in Indian history. Rani Durgavati's story, like those of the other women we've discussed, challenges the conventional notion of female passivity in ancient warfare. She stood up for her kingdom, her people, and her honor, proving that women were not just bystanders in history, but active participants in the struggles for survival and victory. As we move further into the exploration of women warriors throughout history, we now turn our attention to some of the most remarkable figures in African, Asian, and European history. These women, who defied societal norms and broke through the barriers of traditional gender roles, have left an indelible mark on the historical record. From Africa's fierce queens to the unsung heroines of the European medieval period, their stories serve as a powerful testament to the fact that women have always had a place on the battlefield. Let's begin with the story of Yoasantawa, the legendary queen mother of the Ashanti kingdom in what is now Ghana. Yoasantawa's name is synonymous with bravery and resistance. In 1900, when the British colonizers attempted to take control of the Ashanti's sacred golden stool, a symbol of their monarchy and unity, Yoasantawa led her people into battle to defend it. The British sought to strip the Ashanti of their cultural and spiritual heritage, and Yoasantawa refused to let them succeed. With her leadership, the Ashanti army fought fiercely against the British, and though they were ultimately defeated, Yoasantawa's resistance became a symbol of African resistance against colonialism. What makes Yoasantawa's story particularly remarkable is not just the fact that she led her people into battle. Many African women have done so, but the way in which she turned what was seen as a cultural artifact into a powerful symbol of defiance. The golden stool was more than just a throne. It represented the very identity of the Ashanti people. By refusing to allow the British to take it, Yoasantawa turned the stool into a symbol of unity and resistance that resonated far beyond the confines of her kingdom. Her leadership in battle was a powerful reminder that women in Africa, even during the colonial period, played crucial roles in the fight against oppression and the defense of their heritage. Now, let's turn to the world of the Byzantine Empire, where women, though often relegated to secondary roles in the military, nevertheless made their mark through their leadership and involvement in war. One such woman was Empress Theodora, the wife of Emperor Justinian I. Theodora is often remembered for her political cunning and her role in helping her husband rule the Byzantine Empire. But she was also a formidable force in the military affairs of her time. In 532 AD, during the Nika riots, which threatened to overthrow Justinian's rule, Theodora displayed remarkable bravery and resolve. The riots were sparked by dissatisfaction with the emperor's policies, and the rebels took to the streets of Constantinople, demanding his abdication. With the empire on the brink of collapse, Justinian considered fleeing the city, but it was Theodora who stepped forward with a bold proclamation. She would rather die in her imperial robes than live in exile. Her words galvanized Justinian, and together they decided to stay and fight. Theodora's leadership in this moment helped solidify her place in Byzantine history, and her influence over her husband allowed her to play a pivotal role in shaping military strategy during the crisis. The emperor's forces, bolstered by Theodora's resolve, defeated the rebels, and the Nika riots were quelled. Though Theodora did not command armies in the traditional sense, her actions during this pivotal moment in Byzantine history demonstrate the power that women could wield behind the scenes in times of war. Moving on to the medieval European period, we now turn to the story of Joan of Arc, one of the most iconic warrior women in history. Born in 1412 in Domremy, France, Joan was a peasant girl who claimed to have received divine visions instructing her to lead the French army to victory against the English in the 100 Years' War. At just 17 years old, she convinced the French Dauphin, Charles VII, to let her lead an army to lift the siege of Orleans, a city that was crucial to the war effort. Joan's leadership and courage on the battlefield were instrumental in breaking the English siege of Orleans in 1429. her presence rallied the French troops, and her military tactics, though unconventional, proved highly effective. Joan's success at Orleans turned the tide of the war in favor of the French, and it ultimately led to Charles VII being crowned as King of France. Joan's military exploits were not without controversy, and her claims of divine guidance were met with skepticism. However, her impact on the war effort was undeniable. Joan of Arc was a symbol of hope for the French people and a symbol of the power that a single woman, regardless of her status, could wield in the midst of war. Tragically, Joan's story took a dark turn. She was captured by the English in 1430 and put on trial for heresy and witchcraft. Despite her valiant efforts on the battlefield, she was condemned to death and burned at the stake in 1431. However, her legacy as a warrior and a symbol of French patriotism lived on. In 1920, more than 500 years after her death, Joan of Arc was canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church, and her story continues to inspire people around the world. Joan's bravery and determination in the face of overwhelming odds show that even in the medieval period, women could rise to positions of military leadership and change the course of history. Now, let's head back to the African continent, where the role of women in warfare was not limited to just a few exceptional figures. Across the continent, women played key roles in the defense of their communities, whether as leaders, soldiers, or spies. In the Kingdom of Axum, located in what is now Ethiopia, Queen Makeda, also known as the Queen of Sheba, was one of the most famous and powerful female rulers of the ancient world. Though her reign is shrouded in legend, the Queen of Sheba's military and political influence cannot be denied. According to legend, Queen Makeda visited King Solomon in Jerusalem, bringing with her an entourage and gifts. The story of their meeting has been romanticized in various cultures, but it is also a reminder that the Queen of Sheba was a figure of immense power and influence. The Kingdom of Axum, under her leadership, was one of the most advanced and prosperous civilizations of the time, with a strong military and a thriving trade network. Though much of her military history is lost to time, her status as a ruler of one of Africa's great civilizations underscores the powerful role that women played in shaping the course of African history. As we continue our journey through the often overlooked histories of warrior women, we now move to the 19th and early 20th centuries, a time when women continued to challenge traditional gender roles, becoming soldiers, spies, and resistance leaders during some of the most tumultuous periods in global history. These women not only participated in war, but also influenced its outcome in ways that are still often ignored by mainstream historical accounts. From the trenches of World War I to the resistance movements of World War II, their contributions are invaluable and remain a testament to their strength, resilience, and courage. Let's begin with the story of the most famous female spy of World War I. Mata Hari, born Marguerite Gertrude Zell in the Netherlands in 1876. Mata Hari's life is one of intrigue, scandal, and mystery. She began her career as a dancer in Paris, gaining fame for her exotic performances. However, behind the glamour of her performances was a far darker life as a spy for the German Empire during World War I. Mata Hari's story is often told as one of betrayal, as she was arrested by the French in 1917 and accused of espionage. She was charged with passing secrets to the Germans, which allegedly led to the deaths of thousands of French soldiers. Though her actual role in the German espionage network remains debated, her trial and subsequent execution by firing squad at the age of 41 made her a symbol of the dangerous world of espionage and the risks women faced when stepping into male-dominated spheres of power. Mata Hari's involvement in espionage wasn't just a mere act of survival. It was a strategic move to carve out a place for herself in a world where women had limited power and influence. She was a woman who turned the tables on the traditional roles expected of her, using her femininity as both a shield and a weapon. Her legacy as one of the most infamous spies in history continues to captivate people around the world, and her story is a reminder of the dangers and complexity women faced when navigating the world of war and intelligence. From the world of espionage, let's turn to one of the most remarkable female soldiers of World War I, Edith Cavell, a British nurse who worked in Belgium during the war. Cavell is remembered for her courage, compassion, and ultimate sacrifice. Though her primary role during the war was as a nurse, Cavell's contributions went far beyond the expected. She became deeply involved in helping Allied soldiers escape from German-occupied Belgium, setting up an underground network to guide them to safety. Cavell's actions, though highly dangerous, saved the lives of hundreds of soldiers. She was arrested by the Germans in 1915 and accused of treason for her role in assisting the escape of prisoners of war. Despite her bravery and the fact that she had saved many lives, Cavell was sentenced to death by firing squad. Her execution caused an international outcry and became a rallying cry for the Allied powers. Edith Cavell was remembered not only as a nurse, but as a symbol of the quiet, yet vital role that women played in the war effort. Her story highlights the incredible risks that women took during wartime, often working in secret and facing the consequences of their actions without the recognition they deserved. Edith Cavell's legacy, however, is firmly cemented in history, as she was posthumously honored for her courage and selflessness. She became an icon of the sacrifices women made during the war, and her actions helped to prove that the courage required to face the horrors of war wasn't reserved for men alone. Moving forward to World War II, we find countless stories of women who took on roles traditionally reserved for men. One such figure is Nancy Wake, a British-born Australian who became one of the most decorated servicewomen of World War II. Known as the White Mouse by the Gestapo, Wake was a resistance fighter and a spy who worked in France during the German occupation. Nancy Wake's story is one of incredible courage and audacity. As a young woman, she had been living in France and working as a journalist when World War II broke out. Once the war began, Wake became involved in the French resistance, helping Allied soldiers escape from Nazi-controlled territories and assisting in sabotage operations against the Germans. Her work was so effective that the Gestapo placed a large bounty on her head, dubbing her the most wanted woman in France. Wake's determination to fight back against the Nazis wasn't just about individual glory, it was about her unshakable belief in the cause of freedom and justice. She evaded capture numerous times, using her wit and resourcefulness to slip through the clutches of the enemy. She was eventually recruited by the British Special Operations Executive, a secret organization tasked with organizing resistance movements in enemy-occupied territories. Wake went on to lead daring raids against the Germans and served as a vital link between the Allies and the resistance. Nancy Wake's legacy as a war hero is undeniable, and she is one of the most decorated women of the war. Her courage, intelligence, and commitment to the fight against tyranny make her a symbol of the vital role that women played in shaping the outcome of World War II. Her story proves that women were not just passive victims of war, they were active participants who fought, led, and ultimately helped win the war. Another incredible woman who fought for freedom during World War II was Lyudmila Pavlichenko, a Soviet sniper who became one of the deadliest snipers in history. Known as Lady Death, Pavlichenko joined the Soviet army at the age of 24 and went on to become one of the most successful snipers of the war, with more than 300 confirmed kills. Her expertise in the art of sniping made her a key asset to the Soviet war effort, and her skills were so impressive that the Germans considered her one of their most dangerous enemies. Lyudmila Pavlichenko's story is one of extraordinary bravery, as she was not only skilled in combat, but also a leader who inspired other soldiers. Despite the danger she faced, she remained on the front lines, taking out German officers and soldiers with her deadly accuracy. Her reputation as a sniper spread across the battlefield, and she became a symbol of Soviet resilience and determination. After the war, she became a prominent advocate for peace and toured the United States to promote Soviet-American friendship. Lyudmila Pavlichenko's legacy is one of courage, skill, and patriotism, and her story serves as a powerful reminder of the women who fought and died in the wars of the 20th century. Lastly, let's consider the role of women in the various resistance movements during the 20th century. Women have played key roles in many of the world's most significant resistance movements, from the French resistance in World War II to the fight against apartheid in South Africa. These women often face impossible odds, risking their lives to fight for justice, equality, and freedom. Their courage and determination help shape the world we live in today, and their stories remain an important part of the history of warfare. As we continue our exploration of the extraordinary women who have shaped the course of history, we now turn our focus to the women who fought in the shadows, often without recognition, but whose contributions were no less significant. These women did not seek fame or glory. Instead, they fought for survival, for their people, and for the future of their nations. Whether as soldiers, spies, or resistors, these women stood defiant in the face of tyranny and oppression, and their stories are a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Let's begin by revisiting the epic story of the women who served in the Soviet Army during World War II, particularly the role of female pilots in the famous Night Witches Regiment. The 588th Night Bomber Regiment, a unit composed entirely of women, became one of the most celebrated forces in the Soviet military during the war. These women flew elite biplanes, often under cover of darkness, and dropped bombs on German positions. Their missions were incredibly dangerous. Pilots had to fly at low altitudes to avoid detection by enemy radar, and the risk of being shot down was high. Despite the odds, the Night Witches, as they were affectionately called by the Germans, achieved remarkable success. The regiment was responsible for more than 23,000 bombing missions during the war and was instrumental in disrupting the German military's supply lines. What makes their story even more remarkable is that these women flew in some of the most perilous conditions, often operating in freezing temperatures with inadequate equipment. Their bravery and skill earned them the respect of the Soviet Army and the fear of the German forces. The Night Witches symbolize not only the power of women in combat, but also the resilience and resourcefulness required to fight in a war where women were often seen as peripheral. Moving from the skies to the ground, we now turn to the story of another Soviet war hero, Yevdokia Zavely. Zavely was a female tank commander during World War II, a time when the idea of women commanding tanks was still a novelty. In 1942, she joined the Soviet Army and quickly rose through the ranks, despite the harsh conditions of the Eastern Front, where winter temperatures often reached -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Zavely proved herself to be an exceptional commander. She led her tank crew through numerous battles, and her leadership helped secure victories. For the Soviet forces, Zavely's story is one of perseverance and determination. She faced many obstacles as a woman in a male-dominated field, but she proved that she was more than capable of handling the pressure of leading a tank platoon into battle. She was recognized for her bravery and tactical acumen, earning several medals for her service. Zavely's legacy, though less known than some of her male counterparts, serves as a powerful reminder that women have always played a crucial role in the armed forces, regardless of the societal expectations placed upon them. As we shift our focus to the broader world of resistance movements, one of the most fascinating and significant stories is that of the women who fought in the French resistance during World War II. The French resistance was a network of underground fighters who resisted Nazi occupation through sabotage, espionage, and the protection of Allied soldiers. Many of the women involved in the resistance were not soldiers in the traditional sense, but were nonetheless crucial to the movement's success. These women worked as couriers, spies, and saboteurs, often risking their lives to carry out dangerous missions. One such woman was Simone Seguin, a young French girl who joined the resistance at the age of 18. She became known by her codename, Nicole, and worked as a saboteur and sniper. Seguin participated in numerous missions, including the liberation of Paris, where she fought alongside the Allies to free the city from German occupation. Despite being captured by the Germans during a mission, Seguin managed to escape, returning to her work in the resistance with renewed determination. Simone Seguin's story, like that of so many other women in the resistance, is one of extraordinary courage. She was a young woman fighting against one of the most powerful military forces in the world at the time, and yet her bravery and cunning helped her contribute to the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. Her story is just one of many of women who played pivotal roles in the French resistance, yet their contributions often remain overshadowed by the men who led the larger military campaigns. Let's now turn to another incredible figure from the World War II era, a woman whose story is one of both resistance and survival. Irena Sendler. Irena Sendler was a Polish social worker who became one of the most significant figures in the Warsaw Ghetto resistance. During the Nazi occupation of Poland, Sendler worked with the Polish underground to smuggle Jewish children out of the ghetto and save them from the horrors of the Holocaust. Over the course of her work, Sendler saved an estimated 2,500 Jewish children, hiding them in orphanages, homes, and convents to protect them from the Nazis. She used various methods to smuggle the children out, including hiding them in secret compartments in trucks and even in the trunks of cars. Despite the extreme danger involved in her work, Sendler never hesitated to risk her life for the safety of the children. She was eventually arrested by the Gestapo and tortured, but she refused to reveal the identities of the children she had saved. Though she was sentenced to death, Irena Sendler survived, and her work was only truly recognized years later. Irena Sendler's story is one of profound bravery and selflessness. She risked her life not just for the children she saved, but for the ideals of justice and humanity. Her actions are a reminder that women have always been at the forefront of resistance movements, even when their roles were not fully acknowledged by history. Moving from the world of espionage and resistance, let's take a look at another group of women who fought during the wars of the 20th century, the women who fought in the civil wars that ravaged many countries during this period. One notable example is the women who fought in the Spanish Civil War 1936 to 1939. Women played a crucial role on both sides of the conflict, fighting as soldiers, nurses, and political activists. The International Brigades, a collection of volunteers from various countries who fought for the Spanish Republic, included many women who risked their lives to defend the government from the forces of General Francisco Franco. These women fought in some of the bloodiest and most brutal battles of the war. They were part of a broader movement for social justice and political change, and their participation in the war challenged the conventional view of women's roles in warfare. The contributions of these women, however, have often been overshadowed by the male-dominated narratives of the Spanish Civil War. Yet, their bravery and commitment to the cause are no less significant than the soldiers who fought alongside them. As we continue our exploration of warrior women throughout history, we now enter a time of more modern conflicts where women have not only been soldiers, but also political leaders, strategists, and advocates for peace. The women we are about to discuss have fought not just with weapons, but with words, determination, and resilience in the face of adversity. Their legacies challenge the conventional view of women in war and prove that their contributions extend far beyond the front lines. One of the most striking examples of a woman leading a war effort in the modern era comes from the story of Golda Meir, the first female prime minister of Israel. Meir's leadership during the Yom Kippur War of 1973 stands as a testament to her unwavering resolve in times of crisis. Meir was thrust into the leadership position during a tumultuous time in Israeli history, and when Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel, she had to navigate the complexities of military strategy, diplomacy, and international relations. Golda Meir's leadership style was often described as both calm and decisive. Though she was not directly involved in combat, her ability to communicate with her generals, influence military strategy, and unite her country during the war was crucial to Israel's survival. Mir's decision to use military force while simultaneously seeking diplomatic solutions showed her understanding of both the power of military action and the necessity of negotiations. Her role as a female head of state in a male-dominated political world is a powerful reminder that women can lead in moments of crisis, making decisions that affect the course of history. As we move forward, let's look at the role of women in one of the most devastating and widespread conflicts of the 20th century, the Vietnam War. Women's contributions to the Vietnam War have often been overshadowed by the focus on the soldiers who fought on the ground. However, women played vital roles in the war effort, both in combat and in support positions. Some of the most notable stories come from the Vietnamese women who served as soldiers, spies, and combatants in the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong. One such figure was Nguyen Lao Hun, a general in the Viet Cong and one of the most prominent female military leaders in Vietnam. She joined the revolution at a young age and rose through the ranks, eventually commanding a battalion that played a significant role in the war against American forces. Hun was a fearless leader, known for her bravery and strategic thinking. Her actions not only helped to fight back against foreign invaders, but also inspired countless women to join the struggle. She became a symbol of the strength and courage of Vietnamese women during the war. Nguyen Lao Hun's story highlights the important role that women played in the Vietnam War, not just as support roles, but as active participants in the battle for their country's independence. Women in both North and South Vietnam fought alongside men in grueling conditions, often facing the same dangers and hardships. Their contributions were crucial to the success of the war effort, and their legacies continue to inspire women in Vietnam and beyond. As we shift our focus to more recent conflicts, we see the continued involvement of women in wars and peacekeeping missions around the world. In the modern era, women have not only served in the military, but have also become an integral part of peacekeeping operations, disaster response teams, and conflict resolution efforts. These women are working to create a more peaceful and just world by not only engaging in combat, but also by advocating for diplomacy, reconciliation, and human rights. One such figure is Leigh McBowie, a Liberian peace activist who played a pivotal role in ending the Second Liberian Civil War. In the early 2000s, McBowie organized a group of women from different religious backgrounds, including Christian and Muslim women, who came together to demand peace in Liberia through peaceful protests, sit-ins, and nonviolent actions. McBowie and her group of women played a crucial role in forcing the warring factions to the negotiation table, ultimately leading to a ceasefire and the end of the conflict. McBowie's activism and leadership earned her the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011, and her efforts in Liberia highlighted the vital role that women can play in peace building. Her work has inspired women around the world to become active participants in peace processes, demonstrating that women have the power to bring about change even in the most difficult and violent situations. McBowie's story is a powerful reminder that women's contributions to war and peace aren't limited to fighting on the front lines, but extend to efforts that heal nations and promote long-term stability. Another notable example of women's contributions to peace and conflict resolution can be seen in the work of women in the United Nations. Over the past few decades, women have increasingly been involved in peacekeeping and peace-building efforts through organizations like UN Women and other international bodies. Women in these roles work to promote gender equality, protect human rights, and assist in rebuilding societies ravaged by war. These efforts focus on the importance of including women in peace negotiations, as studies have shown that conflicts are more likely to reach lasting peace when women are included in the discussions. Women such as former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, and former UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Zainab Bongara, have worked tirelessly to ensure that women's voices are heard in conflict resolution. Their work has included addressing the needs of women and children in conflict zones, advocating for the protection of women's rights, and ensuring that women are excluded from the peace process. The involvement of these women in global peace efforts shows that women can play a crucial role not just in the aftermath of war, but in preventing conflicts and building lasting peace. Women have also been at the forefront of many social justice movements around the world, advocating for the rights of refugees, displaced persons, and those suffering from the impacts of war. From Malala Yousafzai's advocacy for girls' education in Pakistan to the efforts of women-led organizations in Syria and Yemen, these women are their platforms to address the root causes of conflict and violence, seeking long-term solutions that promote peace, stability, and equality. The story of women in war is one of resilience, strength, and determination. From the battlefield to the negotiating table, women have always played a critical role in shaping the outcomes of conflicts, and their contributions cannot be overlooked. While the stories of these women have often been hidden from mainstream history, their courage and determination continue to inspire future generations. As we continue to uncover the forgotten histories of women in warfare, we now focus on a few more lesser-known, but equally impactful figures whose stories of bravery, strategy, and leadership have been overshadowed by the more prominent narratives of their time. These women may not have led entire armies, but their actions, courage, and contributions were instrumental in shaping the outcome of the conflicts they were a part of. Their stories remind us that the women who fought in history often did so quietly, working behind the scenes, making strategic decisions, and holding together the fragile threads of survival. One such figure is Noor Inayat Khan, a British Indian spy who worked for the Special Operations Executive during World War II. Khan's story is one of exceptional courage and self-sacrifice. Born in 1914 in Moscow, Russia, to an Indian father and an American mother, she had a unique upbringing that straddled different cultures and languages. After the German invasion of France, Khan was recruited by the SO, where she was trained as a wireless operator, a critical role in the resistance efforts. Khan was sent to Paris in 1943 to work behind enemy lines, transmitting vital intelligence to the Allies. Despite the immense danger she faced, Khan operated under the cover of being a simple radio operator in Nazi-occupied France. She worked tirelessly, passing on messages to help the resistance, all while evading detection. Eventually, she was captured by the Gestapo, but even under torture, she did not give up any of her comrades or reveal any secrets. She was executed in 1944, but her bravery and sacrifice have made her one of the most respected figures of wartime espionage. Khan's legacy serves as a powerful reminder of the important role that women have played in intelligence work and in shaping the course of war, often at great personal cost. Shifting focus to the broader impact women had in supporting the war efforts during World War II. Let's talk about the role of women in the military industries. While many women served as soldiers, nurses, and spies, others found their calling in the factories and industries that supported the war machine. These women became known as Rosie the Riveters, and they played a vital role in keeping the Allied forces supplied with the weapons, ammunition, and supplies they needed. The most iconic representation of this movement is the image of Rosie, the riveter from the United States, a symbol of women working in industrial factories during the war. This image, which depicted a woman wearing a bandana, rolling up her sleeves, and flexing her muscles, became a rallying cry for women to take up jobs traditionally held by men. Across the United States, women worked in factories building planes, tanks, and munitions, often for the first time in history. These women, who had previously been confined to domestic roles, stepped into the workforce and played a critical role in ensuring the success of the war effort. While Rosie the Riveter became a symbol, the women who embodied this image were diverse, coming from different walks of life, races, and backgrounds. In the UK, women worked in factories and as land girls, helping to grow the food needed for the war effort. In Russia, women worked in factories and served as snipers, tank drivers, and soldiers. The contributions of these women were often downplayed in the aftermath of the war, but without their labor, the war effort would have been significantly weakened. The women who worked in the factories, farms, and other critical industries were essential to the Allied victory, and their contributions should not be forgotten. Moving forward to the 21st century, women's roles in war and peace have continued to evolve. Women are no longer limited to support roles or behind-the-scenes positions. They are actively participating in modern military operations, peacekeeping missions, and even leadership positions. One notable example is Major General Linda Singh, the Adjutant General of the Maryland National Guard. Singh became the first woman to serve as the head of the National Guard in Maryland, overseeing thousands of soldiers and leading military operations in both peace and wartime. Singh's rise to such a high position in a traditionally male-dominated institution an inspiring story. As a leader in the National Guard, she has been responsible for overseeing military readiness, disaster response efforts, and the coordination of operations with federal and state agencies. Her leadership exemplifies the growing presence of women in high-ranking military positions and serves as a reminder that women have not only served in the ranks, but have also led armies, making critical decisions that affect national security. Beyond the military, women have also taken on pivotal roles in the realm of war diplomacy and peace negotiations. One such woman is Betty Williams, a peace activist from Northern Ireland, who co-founded the women's peace movement in response to the violence of the Troubles. In 1976, after witnessing the tragic deaths of 3 children in her community, Williams helped establish the movement to promote peace between the Catholic and Protestant communities. Williams' efforts were instrumental in organizing marches, protests, and negotiations that eventually led to the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, which helped bring an end to decades of sectarian violence. Her work, alongside fellow activist May Red Corrigan, earned her the Nobel Peace Prize in 1976. Williams' dedication to peace and her tireless advocacy for nonviolent solutions to conflict show that women's contributions to war and peace extend far beyond the battlefield. Women like her are key players in ensuring that conflicts are resolved and that societies can rebuild and move forward from the devastation of war. Turning our attention to more recent conflicts, one of the most notable developments has been the increasing involvement of women in modern peacekeeping operations. The United Nations has made significant strides in ensuring that women are included in peacekeeping missions around the world, recognizing that peace is more likely to be achieved when women are part of the process. Women's voices are critical in peace talks, as they often bring perspectives that are essential for creating lasting solutions. Whether working as diplomats, peacekeepers, or negotiators, women are now actively shaping the future of conflict resolution, and post-war recovery. One of the most significant recent contributions of women in war and peacekeeping has been their role in tackling the issue of sexual violence in conflict zones. In 2008, the United Nations Security Council passed Resolution 1820, which recognized sexual violence as a weapon of war and called for the protection of women and girls in conflict zones. This resolution marked a significant shift in the way the international community views gender-based violence during wartime. Women such as Zainab Bongara, the former special representative of the Secretary-General on sexual violence in conflict, have played an integral role raising awareness of this issue and advocating for stronger protections for women in war. Bongara, a Sierra Leonean diplomat, worked to address the issue of sexual violence in conflict zones, calling for greater accountability and international cooperation to prevent these crimes. Her work has been instrumental in changing international law and bringing attention to the widespread abuse of women and girls during wartime. As a peace advocate and negotiator, Bongara has shown the power of women's involvement in shaping international policies that protect civilians and ensure justice in post-conflict societies. The evolution of women's roles in war and peace is ongoing. As we continue to witness the increasing participation of women in the military, peacekeeping, and diplomacy, we must also remember the historical contributions of women who have been essential to the defense of their countries, the resolution of conflicts, and the promotion of peace. Women have always been at the forefront of shaping the course of history, and their influence in the world of warfare and peace building will continue to grow. As we delve deeper into the history of women warriors, it's crucial to explore how women's roles in warfare have evolved into modern-day military forces. Today, women no longer just fight in traditional combat roles. They are leading military operations, commanding units, and participating in peacekeeping and humanitarian missions across the globe. Their contributions are not limited to their country's borders, but extend into multinational alliances and global peace efforts. The ongoing integration of women into the military is a reflection of society's changing perceptions about gender and warfare. Let's begin with the modern history of women in the U.S. military. During World War II, the United States began to realize the necessity of involving women in the war effort in roles traditionally reserved for men. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, WAAC, was created in 1942, and later the Women's Army Corps, WAC, officially integrating women into the Army in support roles. Women like an Atwater, a civil rights activist and leader, helped pave the way for gender equality in military participation. They took on crucial roles as nurses, clerks, radio operators, and technicians, but many were also involved in the production of munitions, helping to sustain the military machine during the war. Fast forward to the 21st century, and women are now serving in combat positions. In 2013, the Pentagon lifted the ban on women in combat, officially allowing women to serve in front-line combat positions, including infantry, artillery, and armored divisions. This landmark decision was the result of years of advocacy and the undeniable evidence that women were already fighting and performing just as well as men on the front lines. The impact of this decision can't be understated, as it allowed women like Captain Kristen Grice and Lieutenant Shay Haver to become the first women to complete the U.S. Army's prestigious Ranger School in 2015, earning their place in history as combat veterans. Their achievement highlighted the progress made in the acceptance of women in military roles, showing that women could serve in combat without compromising the effectiveness or strength of the military. Women in combat roles not only contribute to direct combat, but also bring new perspectives, skills, and leadership to military units. Their integration has made modern military forces more versatile and responsive to the complex dynamics of modern warfare. The role of women in the military is just a U.S. phenomenon. In Israel, women have been serving in the military since its establishment in 1948, and their participation in defense forces has been a cornerstone of the country's military strategy. In fact, Israel is one of the few countries that mandates military service for both men and women, with women serving in a variety of roles, including combat positions, intelligence, and leadership roles. Women like Major General Orna Barbavai, who became the first female Major General in the Israel Defense Forces IDF in 2015, demonstrate how women can break through the highest ranks and lead military operations. The integration of women in Israel's military has been key to the nation's resilience. While many nations still grapple with the question of gender equality in the military, Israel has consistently proven that women can make invaluable contributions to defense and national security. The IDF's inclusion of women in all roles reflects the country's belief in merit over gender, ensuring that anyone with the right skills and leadership abilities can serve in the military regardless of sex. Another crucial area where women have made an indelible mark in modern military history is in peacekeeping operations. The United Nations (UN) has long recognized the importance of women in peacekeeping roles. These operations have been a vital aspect of maintaining international peace and security, especially in conflict zones where women often bear the brunt of violence. Women peacekeepers are uniquely positioned to address gender-based violence and to support local women and children in conflict areas. One of the most high-profile figures in this domain is Major General Kristen Lund, who became the first female force commander of a UN peacekeeping mission. In 2014, Lund was appointed to lead the United Nations peacekeeping force in Cyprus, overseeing a mission designed to prevent conflict between Greek and Turkish Cypriots. Her leadership demonstrated the value of including women in peacekeeping and conflict resolution, where they can play a unique role in bridging cultural divides and helping to rebuild communities shattered by war. Women peacekeepers have shown themselves to be incredibly effective in addressing issues of sexual violence and exploitation that are rampant in many conflict zones. Their presence helps to provide a level of trust and communication that might otherwise be absent in male-dominated military settings. They bring empathy, understanding, and a commitment to human rights that are critical in post-conflict recovery and in preventing future violence. The increasing participation of women in peacekeeping forces around the world underscores the broader recognition that their skills and perspectives are essential to building peace, rather than simply maintaining it. However, the contribution of women to military efforts isn't just about leadership roles in defense forces or peacekeeping missions. It extends to the broader realm of wartime activism. Women have long played a crucial role in advocating for the end of wars and the prevention of conflicts. In the late 20th century, groups like the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom WLPF and various other feminist organizations took an active role in protesting against wars, military interventions, and nuclear armament. They emphasized the importance of diplomacy, nonviolence, and humanitarian approaches to international relations. These women led campaigns against the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and later conflicts in the Middle East. Their activism was central to shifting public opinion and ensuring that women's voices were heard in policy decisions related to war and peace. Groups like WILPF also worked to ensure that women's needs were addressed in post-conflict situations, particularly in terms of recovery from gender-based violence, displacement, and loss of family members. Their advocacy for women's rights in conflict zones contributed to the shaping of international policies, like the inclusion of women in peace talks and post-conflict reconstruction. Finally, the role of women in military history isn't limited to traditional warfare or peacekeeping. Women have also become an essential part of the modern-day cybersecurity forces. As cyber warfare becomes an increasingly significant aspect of global security, women are stepping up to ensure that nations can defend against digital threats. From high-ranking officials in cybersecurity organizations to military personnel specializing in cyber defense, women are crucial to protecting national security in the 21st century. Their ability to combat cyber attacks, prevent data breaches, and secure sensitive information reflects how women's contributions to warfare have expanded far beyond the physical battlefield. These women are just defending their nations. From conventional military threats, they are securing the digital infrastructure that modern society depends on. With the rise of cyber attacks, ransomware, and digital espionage, women's expertise in cybersecurity has become indispensable. As the world becomes more interconnected, their role in defending nations from digital threats will only continue to grow. As we continue our exploration into the role of women in warfare, it's vital to recognize that the contributions of women in military and conflict situations are only tied to direct combat or espionage. Many women have impacted warfare through their contributions to military strategy, innovation, and morale. Throughout history, women have demonstrated an incredible ability to adapt, overcome adversity, and lead in unconventional ways. Their resilience and creativity have shaped the way wars are fought and how societies rebuild after conflict. Let's begin with one of the most remarkable and overlooked contributions to military strategy by women during World War II: the role of women in the development of radar technology. While the work of radar scientists is often associated with male engineers and physicists, many women played a crucial role in developing radar systems that would go on to change the course of the war. In the UK, the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, WAAF, had thousands of women serving in non-combat roles, and many were involved in the operation and maintenance of radar equipment. Radar technology was essential during the Battle of Britain, where it gave the Royal Air Force RAF a significant advantage over the Luftwaffe. Women in the WAAF worked tirelessly behind the scenes to monitor incoming air raids and provide vital information to RAF pilots. Without the efforts of these women, the RAF would not have had the ability to respond as quickly to German air attacks. Their contributions to military strategy are often forgotten, but their work was fundamental to the success of the Allied forces in the early years of World War II. Women's involvement in technological advancements during wartime also extended to other areas of innovation, such as cryptography. Women working in secret government organizations like the British Government Code and Cipher School at Bletchley Park played a vital role in breaking the German Enigma code. One of the most famous women in this field was Joan Clark, a cryptanalyst, who worked alongside Alan Turing to decipher coded German messages. Clark's work was instrumental in the Allied forces' ability to decode enemy communications, a critical factor in winning the war. Her contribution was part of a broader network of women who, despite facing societal barriers and skepticism, were able to contribute to groundbreaking advancements in military technology. The women of Bletchley Park, many of whom were highly educated and skilled mathematicians, helped shorten the war and saved countless lives. Their work was only recognized decades after the war, and their legacy serves as a testament to the power of women in fields that were once thought to be exclusively male. As we shift from technological contributions to the more human elements of war, we must also acknowledge the critical role that women have played in maintaining morale during wartime. During both world wars, women were instrumental in boosting the spirits of soldiers on the front lines. They served as nurses, caretakers, and volunteers, but their efforts went beyond just providing medical care. Many women organized concerts, wrote letters, and created programs to keep soldiers' spirits high during their most difficult moments. In the United States during World War II. For example, the USO, United Service Organizations, brought performers, including women like the iconic entertainer Betty Grable, to perform for soldiers. These performances were not just for entertainment, they were a form of support. They reminded soldiers that their efforts were appreciated, that they were not forgotten, and that there was a world outside the battlefield still rooting for them. These entertainers and volunteers played a crucial role in ensuring that soldiers remained resilient in the face of the overwhelming challenges they faced. Women have also been involved in maintaining morale through their roles as war correspondents. These women, like Martha Gellhorn and Virginia Cowles, traveled to the front lines of battlefields to report on the conditions and provide first-hand accounts of the war. Their reports helped humanize the conflict for the public, and their bravery in reporting from dangerous areas earned them respect and admiration. These women faced immense risks, often working in the same conditions as the soldiers themselves, yet they were determined to tell the truth about the realities of war. These women didn't just write reports, they documented the emotional and psychological toll that war took on both soldiers and civilians. Their reporting brought attention to the need for care and support for those affected by conflict. Their contributions to war journalism helped shape the public's understanding of war and its aftermath, ensuring that the human costs were not ignored. Another area where women have had a significant impact on the military in the field of humanitarian aid during and after conflicts. Women have often been at the forefront of providing support for refugees, rebuilding communities, and caring for the wounded. One example is the work of women in the International Red Cross and similar organizations who provided vital medical care and support to those affected by war. The work of women in humanitarian aid has often been invisible, but it has been outly essential in ensuring the survival and recovery of war-torn societies. Women who worked in organizations like the Red Cross helped to establish hospitals, provide nutrition, and deliver much-needed supplies to civilians and soldiers alike. Their work in these areas was often as dangerous as the combat itself, but they were dedicated to alleviating human suffering in whatever way they could. These women were crucial in the aftermath of wars, helping to rebuild communities, protect civilians, and address the long-term psychological and physical effects of conflict. Furthermore, women's participation in military efforts has been a driving force in the quest for gender equality. The involvement of women in the military has not only reshaped the way wars are fought, but has also had a profound impact on how societies view women's roles in public and professional life. The integration of women into the armed forces has been a crucial step in the broader movement for gender equality, challenging stereotypes and paving the way for women to take on leadership roles in all sectors of society. The efforts of women in war, from their involvement in direct combat to their contributions to strategy, technology, and morale, have demonstrated that women aren't just passive observers of history, they are active participants in shaping the outcome of wars and the future of nations. As more women continue to serve in military, peacekeeping, and diplomatic roles, their contributions will only grow in significance. We are seeing a world where women are no longer confined to the sidelines, but are stepping into leadership positions where their voices and perspectives are essential in shaping the future of conflict and peace. As we continue to explore the pivotal roles that women have played in warfare and peacekeeping, it's essential to understand the lasting impact that these women have had on the trajectory of military and geopolitical history. The more we examine their contributions, the clearer it becomes that women have not only fought in wars and led peace efforts, but have also been key agents of change, redefining the concept of leadership in the face of conflict. Let's start with the modern-day contributions of women in combat roles, particularly in the context of global counterterrorism efforts. Over the past 2 decades, the rise of global terrorism has shaped military strategies and international relations. In this new era of warfare, women have become an integral part of counterterrorism forces, serving not only in intelligence, military, and diplomatic positions, but also in combating extremism and terrorism. One example is the role of female soldiers in the Kurdish YPJ Yekinen Palestinian, the all-female Kurdish militia that fought against ISIS in Syria. The YPJ made headlines around the world for their courage and determination in the fight against the self-proclaimed Islamic State. These women, who came from diverse backgrounds, were not just fighters, but also symbols of resistance against the oppression of women and the atrocities committed by extremist groups. Their efforts in the battle for Kobani in 2014, where they faced ISIS forces in fierce combat, became iconic. The women of the YPJ did not just fight to defend their communities, they fought for the broader cause of women's rights and freedom. In a region where women have often been marginalized, these fighters became a symbol of empowerment. Their battle against ISIS was not only a fight for survival, but also a fight for the dignity of women. These women's involvement in combat proved that women are just as capable of facing the brutality of war and standing firm against terrorist threats as their male counterparts. In addition to the direct combat role, women have also played a significant part in intelligence operations in the fight against terrorism. Female agents have been invaluable in gathering intelligence, infiltrating extremist groups, and thwarting planned attacks. Women are often seen as less suspicious in certain contexts, which makes them uniquely positioned to gain access to information and networks that might otherwise be closed to male agents. Their ability to operate within complex, often patriarchal structures has made them essential in counterintelligence operations worldwide. Moving on to the role of women in humanitarian efforts during times of conflict, we cannot ignore the incredible work done by organizations like Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. which has seen countless women serving in the most dangerous and volatile war zones. Women in these organizations work not only as doctors and nurses, but also as logisticians, counselors, and volunteers who provide crucial support to the survivors of war. One particularly notable example is the work of Dr. Mukwege, a Congolese gynecologist who, alongside his team of female nurses and doctors, has treated thousands of women who have suffered sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of the Congo DRC. The DRC has faced decades of brutal conflict, with women bearing the brunt of the violence. Dr. Mukwege's hospital has become a sanctuary for survivors, offering not just medical treatment, but psychological care to help these women rebuild their lives. Women working alongside him have played an essential role in helping victims of sexual violence regain their strength and voice, showing that the humanitarian efforts in conflict zones often rely on the work of women dedicated to healing. While many women in conflict zones focus on healing, the influence of women on policy making and global peace negotiations continues to grow. In recent years, the inclusion of women in peace talks has become recognized as crucial for ensuring lasting peace. Women's voices in the negotiation rooms help address the broader social, economic, and cultural issues that contribute to conflict, making them integral to long-term solutions. One notable example of women shaping peace talks comes from the conflict in Colombia, where the FARC Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and the Colombian government engaged in peace negotiations. For decades, in the final peace agreement signed in 2016, women played a central role. Representatives of women's rights groups, as well as female leaders within both the FARC and the government, were key players in the peace talks. The Colombian peace process was widely regarded as a step forward in recognizing the importance of gender in peace building, as it ensured that women's perspectives were embedded in the discussions and final agreement. The Colombian peace process showed the world that for peace to be sustainable, women must not only be involved in the process, but also be in leadership positions where their contributions are valued. Their involvement addressed the issues faced by women and children in post-conflict societies, such as displacement, sexual violence, and reintegration into society, ensuring that the needs of the most vulnerable populations were considered. As the global landscape of war and peace continues to evolve, so does the role of women. Today, women are no longer merely victims or passive observers of conflict. They are active participants in the military, political, and diplomatic spheres, leading efforts to prevent war, mediate peace, and rebuild nations torn apart by violence. Whether serving in combat roles, managing military intelligence, or working as diplomats and humanitarians, women's impact on modern warfare and peacekeeping is undeniable. Looking forward, the next frontier for women in warfare and peace will be in addressing the emerging challenges of the 21st century. Climate change, cyber warfare, and global pandemics are reshaping the nature of conflict. In these areas, women will play an essential role in not only combat, but in shaping strategies for global cooperation and conflict resolution. For instance, in the field of climate change, women in areas affected by droughts, floods, and natural disasters are already stepping up to lead resilience efforts, organizing communities, and advocating for environmental justice. The future of war may involve more non-traditional forms of combat, such as cyber attacks or resource-based conflicts. In these areas, women's unique perspectives will be vital in shaping global security policies and strategies. Furthermore, as nations continue to invest in technological advancements in warfare, women's roles in cybersecurity and digital warfare will continue to expand. The increasing need to defend against cyber attacks, safeguard critical infrastructure, and prevent the manipulation of information will create new opportunities for women in military and intelligence agencies worldwide. Women's participation in the evolving nature of global conflict will not only reshape the security landscape, but also redefine what it means to be a leader in the 21st century. Their contributions to past wars have been invaluable, but their leadership in future challenges will be what ensures a more peaceful and secure world for generations to come. As we reflect on the history of women in warfare, we begin to realize that these stories are not just about the past, they are about shaping the future. The legacy of these incredible women, whether as warriors, leaders, strategists, or peacemakers, has had a profound impact on how we view gender in the context of conflict and peace. As the world continues to evolve and adapt to new forms of warfare and conflict, the role of women will undoubtedly expand, continuing to break down barriers and challenge long-standing stereotypes about gender and power. One of the most notable shifts in modern warfare is the changing nature of military service. More countries are increasingly allowing women to serve in combat roles, and many have taken steps to remove discriminatory barriers that previously excluded women from certain positions. In 2017, the United States military officially opened all combat roles to women, marking a significant milestone in gender equality. This decision was based on the recognition that women have the same capacity for leadership, courage, and skill in combat as men. This change not only empowers women but strengthens military forces by ensuring that the best individuals, regardless of gender, are selected to serve in critical roles. This shift is part of a broader, global movement toward gender integration in the military. In countries like Canada, Norway, and Sweden, women have already been serving in combat roles for years. Their contributions have demonstrated that women aren't just capable of participating in combat, they are essential to the future of military operations. The integration of women into all aspects of the military is not just about gender equality, but also about military effectiveness. A diverse and inclusive force is more adaptable, more innovative, and better prepared for the complex challenges of modern warfare. One particularly inspiring example of this is the story of the Israel Defense Forces (IDF), where women have long held a significant place in the military. In Israel, women serve in combat roles, including as pilots, tank drivers, and infantry soldiers. Their involvement in the IDF has proven that women can excel in the most physically demanding and dangerous military tasks. The success of women in the IDF has led to a reevaluation of military capabilities and has shown that gender is not a limitation in warfare. Women in Israel not just participating in the military, they are leading it, commanding units, and making strategic decisions that shape the future of the nation's defense. Similarly, women's increasing participation in peacekeeping operations has further highlighted the important role they play in conflict resolution. Women peacekeepers are not just symbols of strength, they are vital agents of change. Their involvement in peacekeeping missions is essential to ensuring that peace is not only achieved, but sustained. In post-conflict societies, women are often the key to rebuilding communities and restoring trust among fractured groups. Whether serving in the United Nations peacekeeping forces or local peace initiatives, women bring a unique perspective to the peace process, often focusing on the humanitarian needs of civilians and addressing issues such as sexual violence, displacement, and human rights violations. One exemplary figure in this regard is UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten. Her work in addressing the issue of sexual violence in conflict zones has been groundbreaking. Patten's advocacy has led to significant changes in international law, with the United Nations adopting measures that hold perpetrators of sexual violence accountable and providing greater protections for women and girls in conflict zones. Her efforts have also led to the establishment of programs that assist survivors of sexual violence, helping them to rebuild their lives and access the resources they need for recovery. Another important area where women's roles are expanding is in the realm of military technology and innovation. As modern warfare becomes more technologically advanced, women are increasingly involved in the development and implementation of cutting-edge technologies that can change the course of conflict. Women engineers, scientists, and military strategists are playing pivotal roles in the development of drones, artificial intelligence, cyber defense, and other technologies that are redefining the battlefield. These technologies are shaping the future of warfare, and women are at the forefront of these innovations. One area where women have excelled is in cybersecurity, where their expertise is vital to protecting nations from digital threats. Cyber warfare is one of the most rapidly growing areas of modern conflict, and women are increasingly recognized as leaders in this field. Women like General Petraeus, a cybersecurity expert, and Dr. Neuberger, the first Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology in the United States, have made major strides in securing digital infrastructures and safeguarding national security from cyber attacks. These women, along with countless others in the cybersecurity field, have demonstrated that gender is not a barrier to success in this high-stakes domain. Beyond military and intelligence roles, women are also becoming more prominent in the diplomatic sphere, shaping the global narrative on conflict and peace. One notable example is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first female president of Liberia and the first woman to be elected as a head of state in Africa. Sirleaf played an instrumental role in ending Liberia's brutal civil war and rebuilding the nation afterward. Her leadership was pivotal in guiding Liberia through the complex process of post-war recovery, reconciliation, and reconstruction. Sirleaf's legacy as a peacemaker has inspired countless women across Africa and the world, showing that women can lead their nations to peace and prosperity. Similarly, women like Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar have shown the importance of women in leadership during times of conflict. Though her leadership has been controversial in recent years, her long-standing efforts to promote peace and democracy in Myanmar were a significant force in the country's transition from military dictatorship to a semi-democratic government. Suu Kyi's activism and her role in Myanmar's struggle for freedom highlight the unique contributions that women leaders can make in the face of political and social unrest. As we look to the future, it's clear that the involvement of women in military and peacekeeping operations will only continue to grow. The changing nature of warfare, with its emphasis on technology, intelligence, and diplomacy, creates new opportunities for women to lead and shape global security. Women's contributions to war and peace are more important than ever, and their involvement in these efforts will continue to redefine the future of conflict resolution and global security. The future of warfare is no longer defined solely by traditional combat on the battlefield. It is shaped by technology, diplomacy, and the voices of those who fight not only to win, but to ensure that peace is lasting and sustainable. As women continue to break barriers and take on leadership roles in all areas of conflict and peace, they will play a critical part in shaping a world where justice, equality, and security are available to all. As we reach the final stages of our exploration into the role of women in warfare, it is crucial to emphasize the ongoing transformation that women's contributions to war and peace continue to inspire. In recent decades, we have witnessed a significant shift in the ways women are involved in armed conflicts and peace-building efforts. Women's participation is no longer limited to auxiliary roles or behind-the-scenes support. They are increasingly stepping into leadership positions, commanding military forces, shaping military strategy, and advocating for peace and justice. On the global stage, one of the most significant changes in recent years has been the growing recognition of women's voices in the field of conflict resolution. In the past, peace negotiations and diplomatic efforts to end wars have been dominated by male leaders and diplomats. However, the global community has come to realize that peace agreements are more likely to be sustainable when women are included in the negotiation process. This understanding has led to initiatives like UN Security Council Resolution 1325, passed in 2000, which emphasizes the importance of women's participation in peace-building and conflict resolution. UN Security Council Resolution 1325, known as the Women, Peace, and Security WPS Agenda, calls for the inclusion of women in all peace processes, from conflict prevention to post-conflict reconstruction. It recognizes the critical role that women play in shaping the outcomes of conflicts, both during and after wartime. Since the passage of this resolution, women have increasingly become involved in peace talks and international diplomacy. Women have served as mediators, negotiators, and peace builders in some of the world's most intractable conflicts, including those in Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. One such example is the work of women in Colombia, where women's organizations have been instrumental in advocating for peace and reconciliation in the aftermath of the decades-long civil conflict between the government and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia FARC. Women's voices were integral to the peace talks that culminated in the 2016 peace agreement. Colombian women, including political leaders, grassroots activists, and former combatants, worked together to ensure that the voices of victims, particularly women and children, were heard and that their needs were addressed in the peace process. In countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone, women have played a crucial role in post-conflict recovery and peace building. Women's peace organizations have worked tirelessly to ensure that peace agreements not only bring an end to violence, but also address the root causes of conflict, such as inequality, poverty, and lack of access to education and healthcare. The inclusion of women in peace building has helped to ensure that these efforts are more inclusive, addressing the concerns of the most vulnerable populations in society. Women's organizations have also been key to providing support and rehabilitation to survivors of sexual violence, a common weapon of war in many conflicts. The role of women in conflict resolution is not just about negotiation tables and diplomatic discussions. It is also about the impact of their leadership and activism on the ground. In many conflict zones, women have been on the front lines of grassroots movements that challenge oppressive regimes, demand justice for war crimes, and advocate for the rights of marginalized groups. Whether through organizing protests, leading civil society organizations, or working as human rights defenders, these women have fought to ensure that peace is built on a foundation of justice, equality, and respect for human rights. Women like Nadia Murad, a Yazidi woman who was captured and enslaved by ISIS, have become symbols of resilience and resistance in the face of unimaginable violence. After her escape, Murad became a global advocate for the Yazidi community and for the survivors of sexual violence in conflict. She was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018 for her efforts to bring attention to the issue of sexual violence in war and for her work in supporting survivors. Murad's courage in the face of atrocity has made her a powerful voice for those who have been silenced by war, and her advocacy has led to greater international attention on the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. In addition to their work in peace building and conflict resolution, women are also leading efforts to prevent conflicts from occurring in the first place. Women's organizations and women leaders are increasingly involved in peace diplomacy and efforts to address the root causes of conflict, such as inequality, resource scarcity, and climate change. By focusing on prevention, women are helping to create a more peaceful and stable world by addressing the issues that often lead to violence and war. Women's roles in peace and conflict prevention are essential to ensuring that conflicts do not escalate into full-scale violence. In the realm of international relations and military diplomacy, women have also become leaders in multilateral organizations that focus on international security. Women like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who served as the president of Liberia and helped to guide the country through the aftermath of civil war, have demonstrated the power of women's leadership in shaping the future of nations. Her role in the rebuilding of Liberia, as well as her advocacy for global peace and security, has inspired women around the world to take on leadership roles in government and international organizations. Looking ahead, it is clear that women will continue to play an essential role in shaping the future of conflict and peace. As the nature of warfare evolves, with cyber attacks, economic warfare, and other non-traditional forms of combat on the rise. Women's expertise will be critical in addressing these new challenges. The inclusion of women in all aspects of military, diplomatic, and peace-building efforts ensures that the world is better equipped to deal with the complexities of modern conflict. Women's growing participation in military leadership, peace negotiations, humanitarian work, and conflict resolution has not only transformed the way wars are fought and peace is achieved, but it has also created a more inclusive and just global order. The future of global security lies in the active participation of women in these efforts, and their leadership will be instrumental in creating a more secure, peaceful, and equitable world. As we approach the final chapters of this comprehensive exploration into the impact of women in warfare and peace, it's important to recognize that the stories we've discussed are far from exhaustive. Women's contributions to military, history, and peace-building are deeply woven into the fabric of global security, and their presence in these areas continues to grow, evolve, and inspire. In recent years, we've seen women leading movements in a new era of warfare, one where conflict is no longer solely defined by physical confrontation, but by psychological, economic, and cyber challenges. Women have become central figures not just in military and humanitarian efforts, but in addressing the underlying causes of conflict, working to build societies resilient to the forces of violence, oppression, and extremism. This shift in warfare, which increasingly involves non-traditional strategies, highlights the versatility and importance of female leaders in both military and civilian roles. One such leader is General Robin Olds, a trailblazer for women in military aviation. While the U.S. military opened combat roles to women just a few decades ago, the legacy of women in combat aviation has roots stretching back to the very early days of the 20th century. Olds, who served in the U.S. Air Force, broke barriers not only as a skilled fighter pilot, but as an inspiration to young women looking to break into the aviation and military fields. Her involvement in the Vietnam War marked her as one of the first women to serve in the most dangerous and high-stakes military roles, where success depended not only on bravery, but on calculated, skilled execution of strategic operations. General Olds and other women who have followed her path, such as Colonel Jeannie Leavitt, the first woman to command a combat fighter squadron in the U.S. Air Force, continue to serve as symbols of women breaking barriers in traditionally male-dominated military roles. Women like Leavitt and Olds exemplify the ongoing trend of women advancing through ranks and showing that leadership, courage, and technical mastery aren't confined by gender. These women remind us that in modern warfare, the strength of an army comes from diversity, not uniformity. As we look beyond military combat and into the realm of cyber warfare, the involvement of women has also been integral to the security and defense efforts of the modern world. Cyber warfare is one of the defining threats in the current landscape of conflict, and women are now leading efforts to counter this growing danger. Professionals like Dr. Kathleen Carley, a leading expert in social network analysis and cybersecurity, are shaping how the world understands and responds to the threats posed by cyber attacks. As these technological advancements evolve, women like Dr. Carley helping nations better prepare for the future of warfare, one that involves digital intelligence and defense just as much as traditional military strategies. Women's roles in cyber defense, like those of military personnel, are part of a broader trend of gender inclusivity in high-tech warfare sectors. Their contributions extend from defending critical infrastructure to devising new strategies to protect governments and private entities from hacking, cyber espionage, and data theft. As cyber attacks increasingly target sensitive information, women are becoming essential figures in the realm of information security, demonstrating that the digital battlefield is one where their leadership and expertise are indispensable. Similarly, women are increasingly assuming leadership roles in national security and defense policy, areas traditionally dominated by male counterparts. For instance, In the United States, figures like Dr. Michelle Flournoy, who served as Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, have broken new ground. Dr. Flournoy's leadership in defense policy shaped the direction of U.S. military engagement around the globe, influencing national security strategies and defense capabilities. Her rise to the highest ranks of U.S. defense policy underscores the importance of women in shaping military strategy at the highest levels of government. Women's roles in national security are no longer confined to advisory roles. They are leading policy decisions, shaping military doctrine, and driving discussions on international security. Their presence in these areas ensures that defense strategies account for the diverse needs of society, integrating perspectives that are vital for peace building, military effectiveness, and international cooperation. The changing face of leadership in the defense sector reflects a growing global recognition that women are just as capable as men in creating and executing national security strategies. Women's involvement in the peace-building process extends beyond the government level, touching grassroots efforts and the community level as well. One of the most powerful examples of this is the work of women in the wake of conflict to help societies heal and rebuild. After the genocide in Rwanda, women played a key role in the country's recovery and in efforts to achieve justice for the survivors. The Rwandan government actively included women in its post-conflict leadership, with women holding over 60% of the seats in parliament, the highest percentage of any country in the world. This level of female political participation has been credited with ensuring that Rwanda's recovery was not only swift but also inclusive, addressing the needs of women and children who are disproportionately affected by the genocide. Women's involvement in post-conflict societies like Rwanda highlights their pivotal role in rebuilding after war, from helping to establish new social structures to ensuring that the voices of marginalized communities are heard. Women's leadership is instrumental in the success of post-conflict recovery. Their ability to advocate for justice, ensure accountability, and provide support for survivors of violence makes them integral players in rebuilding war-torn societies. These women aren't just peacekeepers, they are peace builders, actively working to lay the foundation for sustainable peace. In terms of humanitarian efforts, women have become the backbone of organizations like the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, and various other NGOs that operate in conflict zones. Women are often on the front lines of providing medical care, food, shelter, and psychological support to those affected by war. These women work in the most dangerous and difficult conditions imaginable, often risking their lives to help those in need. Their courage and selflessness are as critical to the war effort as any military engagement. Finally, as we look to the future of warfare and peace, we must also acknowledge the role of young women who are taking the lead in shaping global security. Organizations like the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom WILPF, which has been active for over a century, continue to advocate for disarmament, human rights, and sustainable peace. Young women around the world are picking up the mantle, advocating for a future where peace is prioritized and conflict is prevented through diplomacy, education, and cooperation. They are not just future leaders, they are leaders of today, actively working to build a world that is safer, more just, and more secure for all. As we conclude our deep dive into the transformative roles that women have played throughout history in warfare, conflict resolution, and peace building, it's vital to recognize that their influence extends far beyond what we often see in mainstream historical narratives. The experiences, sacrifices, and successes of these women, many of whom have never been fully acknowledged, are the key to understanding the full scope of warfare, peace, and resilience. Their stories prove that the battle for equality, leadership, and justice has always been present, even in the most turbulent of times. In the 21st century, the involvement of women in defense, security, and peace building is not a passing trend. It's an essential part of ensuring that wars are prevented and that peace is long-lasting. In regions affected by armed conflict, women's contributions to rebuilding societies cannot be overstated. They are the ones who often heal the deepest wounds of war, those inflicted on the psyche of children, families, and communities. From advocating for the safe reintegration of soldiers into society to building post-conflict justice systems, women are leading the way in transforming war-torn countries into thriving, peaceful societies. One remarkable example of women's role in post-conflict recovery can be found in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where women have played a pivotal role in healing the divisions left by the brutal Bosnian War in the 1990s. Women's groups have been at the forefront of efforts to foster dialogue between different ethnic groups, such as Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs, who were once torn apart by violence. These women-led organizations have worked tirelessly to build trust, advocate for justice, and push for truth and reconciliation processes. By bringing communities together, they have shown that sustainable peace is not just about ending violence, but also about healing societal wounds and rebuilding relationships. In the context of global security, women are also taking center stage in the realm of diplomacy. In the past, peace negotiations and diplomatic efforts to end conflicts have often been dominated by male leaders, with women relegated to supporting roles. However, this is changing. In recent peace talks, we have seen women not only participating, but leading the charge for peace. For example, in Colombia's peace negotiations with the FARC, women played a crucial role in bringing attention to the needs of the most vulnerable populations, especially women and children, who are deeply impacted by the conflict. Their inclusion in the talks was essential for ensuring that the peace process addressed not just the political and military aspects of the war, but also the social and humanitarian needs of the people. This shift is not just limited to Colombia. In peace negotiations from Syria to Yemen, women have been calling for their rightful place at the negotiating table. They are advocating for peace that does not only end the fighting, but also addresses the structural inequalities and human rights abuses that often lie at the heart of conflict. The inclusion of women in peace talks ensures that the agreements are more comprehensive and that the long-term recovery efforts address all aspects of a post-conflict society: justice, security, reconciliation, and development. But the work of women in warfare and peace building does not end with peace agreements. Women's contributions to the defense sector, especially in leadership positions, are becoming increasingly recognized. For example, Major General Layla Almarayati, the first female general in the Egyptian army, represents a breakthrough in military leadership. Women like her show that leadership in the armed forces is not bound by gender. It's about capability, strategic thinking, and dedication. These female leaders are breaking barriers and proving that women can lead in the most challenging and traditionally male-dominated fields. As countries around the world continue to open their doors to women in combat and leadership roles, we also see the rise of women in the ranks of military intelligence and cyber defense. The complexity of modern warfare, characterized by cyber attacks, disinformation, and information warfare, requires a diverse set of skills. Women are stepping up in these areas, using their expertise to protect their nations from digital threats. Their work in cybersecurity is pivotal in defending against cyber attacks that target critical infrastructure, governmental operations, and personal data. As warfare continues to evolve in the digital realm, women's involvement in these sectors is vital to ensuring national security. Women's involvement in defense and security efforts also extends to their role in advocating for global disarmament. Women have been at the forefront of anti-nuclear movements, working to reduce the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and advocating for arms control. Organizations such as the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom (WILPF) have been central to these efforts, pushing for treaties that aim to reduce military tensions and promote global cooperation. Their tireless efforts to reduce nuclear stockpiles and advocate for peaceful alternatives to war have led to meaningful contributions in disarmament talks. ensuring that peace is built not just on the absence of war, but on the principles of diplomacy, human rights, and justice. Women are also making their voices heard in the growing field of climate security. Climate change is increasingly being recognized as a driver of conflict, with water scarcity, food insecurity, and forced migration becoming sources of tension between nations and communities. Women, particularly in vulnerable regions, are leading efforts to address the intersection between climate change and conflict by advocating for sustainable solutions to environmental challenges and promoting policies that include women's perspectives. They are helping to mitigate the risks of climate-induced conflicts. The work of women in peace building and conflict prevention is not confined to high-level diplomacy or government roles. It is also taking place at the grassroots level, where women are organizing communities, advocating for human rights, and ensuring that their voices are heard in the halls of power. The power of grassroots movements is undeniable, and women's leadership in these movements is reshaping the way we think about global security. From the Syrian women fighting for their rights in the midst of a civil war to the activists in Sudan who led protests to overthrow a dictator, women are leading the charge for a more just and peaceful world. The future of warfare and peace depends on the continued empowerment of women to take on leadership roles in the military, diplomatic, and humanitarian sectors. As global security evolves in the face of emerging threats such as cyber warfare, climate change, and resource-based conflicts, women's perspectives and contributions will be essential to navigating these challenges. By continuing to break down barriers and fight for equality in all aspects of warfare and peace, women are ensuring that the future of global security is one that is inclusive, just, and sustainable. As we conclude this comprehensive journey through the history of women's involvement in warfare and peace building, we are left with an undeniable truth. Women have always been integral to the military and peace processes. Their contributions, though often overlooked or underrepresented, have shaped the course of history in profound ways. From the front lines of battle to the negotiation tables for peace, from leading resistance movements to innovating in the realms of military technology and cybersecurity, women have proven time and again that their leadership, bravery, and resilience are just as vital as their male counterparts. The stories of the women we've explored, whether they were fighting to defend their homelands, organizing communities in times of crisis, or negotiating peace treaties, remind us that warfare and peace are not solely defined by weapons and soldiers. They are also shaped by the human spirit, by the desire for justice, equality, and dignity, and by the leadership of those who refuse to accept the status quo. Women have shown us that the future of war and peace must be built on inclusivity, dialogue, and respect for human rights, and their participation in these efforts ensures that we move closer to a world where peace is not just a hope, but a reality. Looking back at the centuries of history we've covered, we see the indelible marks left by women in every conflict, from the Amazonian warriors of ancient Greece and the Valkyries of the Norse sides to the nurses, spies, and soldiers of World War II. Women have not only contributed to the military efforts of their time, but have also fought to ensure that the aftermath of war is one of recovery, reconciliation, and rebuilding. Whether it's the work of women in the French Resistance or the leadership of figures like Golda Meir and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, women have proven that their involvement in global security is essential to achieving lasting peace. The empowerment of women in the military, in peace building, and in political leadership is a growing and crucial force in today's world. From Israel to Liberia, from Colombia to the United Nations, women are breaking barriers and proving that peace and security cannot be achieved without the full participation of women in all stages of conflict resolution. It's no longer enough to have women in supportive or auxiliary roles. They must be included in all aspects of the decision-making process, from the battlefield to the peace table. The ongoing inclusion of women in combat roles, peacekeeping forces, and leadership positions is an essential step in creating a military and security landscape that is truly reflective of the diverse needs and experiences of society. Women bring unique perspectives, empathy, and collaboration to peace processes that help address not just the military aspects of conflict, but the human dimensions, the needs of families, children, and communities affected by violence. Their work in post-conflict recovery, addressing sexual violence, and advocating for the most vulnerable ensures that peace is not only about stopping violence, but about rebuilding society on a foundation of justice and human dignity. As warfare continues to evolve in the 21st century, driven by technology, cyber threats, and climate change, women will be at the forefront of shaping strategies for defense, diplomacy, and peace, whether through leading efforts in cybersecurity, advocating for arms control and climate security, or continuing to push for the rights of women and children in conflict zones. Women's voices will remain indispensable in securing a more peaceful and stable world. The fight for gender equality in the military, in peace processes, and in global security is far from over. While we've made significant strides, we must continue to push for more inclusion, more leadership opportunities, and more recognition of the roles women play in shaping the future of warfare and peace. The legacy of women in warfare, though often uncelebrated in traditional histories, has been crucial to the development of modern security forces and the pursuit of peace worldwide. So, as we move forward, let's remember the incredible stories of the women warriors, leaders, and peace builders who have shaped the course of history. Let their examples inspire future generations of women and men to work together for a more just, secure, and peaceful world where the lessons of the past are applied to create a future where everyone, regardless of gender, has a place in shaping global peace and security. Women have always been and will continue to be at the heart of shaping the future of warfare, peace, and justice. As we look to the future, we know that peace is not something that will simply be handed to us. It is something that will be forged, negotiated, and built by the brave, the resilient, and the visionary leaders of today and tomorrow, including the women who continue to make their mark on history.